Okay, welcome back. In this episode we're going to do the graphical user interface, and to that end I just want to demonstrate something briefly. The Java library comes with a few layout managers, and for the main layout we'll be using the default. And the default will treat the interface as if it's arranged like this into 5 sections: header, footer, left, right, and center. This area is referred to as north, south, west, east, and center. Now these don't have to be this exact size, but this is how they are in relation to each other. The center will take up whatever space is not taken up by these other ones. So what we're going to do is we're going to put our top labels here in this north category. We'll just have a margin set for the west and east and a margin for the south section, and then the center will be left the rest of the space, which will be a square for the game board. Okay, so what we're going to do now is look at the folders we have. We're going to go into the source folder, and into the com folder, and into the Adam P. Jr. folder, and into, what folder do I have there? Java 2048. And we have these two classes. We're going to make one more, touch GUI.java, and we're going to open all our Java files in the text editor. And let's resize this window. That green's kind of obnoxious on the red background. I'm going to change that real quick. Okay, here we go. We're going to make the same package that we have for the other classes for this class. And we'll need to do 2 imports from the Java library that deal with graphic interfaces: java.awt.star, and we'll import javax.swing.star. These 2 things should be enough for what we need, and we're going to make a public class GUI. The first thing we need to do is define a few basic variables, such as the frame height and frame width. The frame height, I've already done the math for it, and I think it's correct, will be 424. The frame width will be 328. The game board size will be 296, which allows for a little space between the 64 by 64 grids on the game board. The margin size between the board and the sides will be 16. And the background color will be a new color, and I believe the color is in the AWT, or AUT if you call it that, library, or package I should say. We'll make a color of 255 red, 225 green, and 120 blue. And I'm completely leaving out my type words here. These are all ints except for background color, which is a color, obviously. Save this. Next thing I have to do is make a JFrame. JFrame frame. Now it's time to make our constructor. Public GUI. And in this we're going to initialize the JFrame as a new JFrame. A JFrame is a cool object that comes with Java's Swing package, and it's basically just a window. And one thing you always have to do when you make a JFrame is set the default close operation. This is a function that just tells the frame what it's going to do when you press the X button, I think. Exit on close. I've had this line on everything I do with the Java interface, and I'm not entirely sure how necessary it is, but I never put anything else as the default close operation. Now within this class GUI, we're going to define something called a public class, which is going to be a JPanel So we're going to say class game board extends JPanel, and extending JPanel will give us the right to define the paint function, which will tell Java how to paint or color or draw on that specific panel. And that's all we're actually going to have inside this private class definition. We're overriding a function called protected void paint component graphics G. And for now, all we're going to have this component do is paint itself a certain color. G.setColor, new color, 20, 20, 20. We'll go with a really dark gray. And this graphics G object that's getting passed in, this whole function is not something that we'll ever call directly. Java will automatically do it to decide how to display the panel. So we're just going to tell it to do it in dark gray. We'll set the color dark gray and then use that color to fill a rectangle that is exactly the size of this panel's width and height. Get width is a function, just like get height is a function. So that should be good. Now within the GUI class's constructor, we will create an instance of that game board. Game board GB will be a new game board. That will be something that goes in the center of the interface like I demonstrated earlier. And the other four sections, north, south, east, and west, will be JPanels, but we don't need to make them specially defined like we will need to do for the center panel. So let's do the north panel. We'll make a JPanel called north panel. And the north panel itself will use a different layout than the default layout. We'll use a grid layout. The grid layout will just lay out whatever you put onto it in a grid pattern. And we're going to put three things on this north panel: the label, the person's current score, and the high score that they have on record. So we'll just leave that there for now. We will set its preferred size to a new dimension, and its width will be the width of the entire thing, and its height will be 112. This frame width variable we'll use to define the size of the whole display. And this north panel will stretch across the whole display and be 112 pixels tall. Then within this panel, we're going to make a few labels. A J label called game label will be a new J label. That's not a J label. This is the J label. The text will be 1024 since that's the high number of our game instead of 2048. And it will be centered within its area, which since we'll put 3 labels, it will be centered in the left 1/3 of this north panel. Then, the only reason I made this one a variable is that I want to set the font to something a little bit bigger and special than the other ones. Set font, new font. Serif is a good font. I'll make this one bold and bigger than the other ones. So I'm going to add that game label to this north panel. I'm also going to add a new J label for the score. Now this is something I only found out about recently, but you can actually put this garbage inside your J label constructor HTML things to make a break in the label itself. The /newline thing I tried at one point and it didn't work. And the only way I could figure out to put a break inside a J label was to use this HTML stuff. This, as of right now, is just a mock-up. Later on, we'll have this automatically populate with the current score of the player, but for now we just want to see how everything looks. So I'm also going to tell this one to center within its area. And we need one more J panel, or J label. This one will also have HTML in it, and this will be high score. With a line break, and we'll just say that the person's high score is 22,600. This will also be centered. So that is everything we need in the north panel, except we need to set the background. The north panel background will be the background color that we defined up here, which this is sort of a light golden yellow color. So we've taken care of the north panel. Now what we need to do is take care of the west. So I make a J panel west buffer. There's a new J panel. We're going to set west buffer's preferred size to a new dimension with a width of the margin size. Is that what I called that variable? Yes, 16. I use variables instead of the actual numbers in case I want to change the margin. I can just change it right here instead of everywhere that I put 16. Its width will be margin size, and its height will be the size of the game board. Then we're going to set the background color of the west buffer to the same background color we used for north panel and we'll use for all the other panels. This is all we need to do is with west buffer, and we need to do the same exact thing for east buffer. So I'm just going to copy it all over and change it all to east buffer wherever it says west. And I'm going to paste it again and make south buffer. But the south buffer will be a little bit different because the south buffer will extend across the whole bottom of the page. So its width, instead of being 16, will be the frame width. But its height will be the margin size of 16 pixels. South buffer, not set background color. I think that's all we need to do for east, west, and south. Now that we have everything set up, we have the north panel, which has our labels And we have the 3 panels we just made, which are sized the right way to frame the center. And for the center, we have this game board object, which we defined down here as something that will just paint itself really dark gray. So now we need to add all these panels to the J-frame. So, add panels to frame. And here I should probably put a comment since I put north panel. I'll put other panels here. So to add the panels to the frame, we do frame.getContentPane.add north panel border layout, which is the name of the default layout we're using, .north. Then we want to add the west buffer to border layout .west. Then we want to add the east buffer to border layout .east. Then we want to add the south buffer to border layout .south. And then we want to add our game board to the center, which will fill up the rest of the space. So we've sized all of these in the way so that we leave the exact amount of space we want, which is a square of 296 by 296 for the main game board. Add game board GB to border layout .center. Then we're going to tell the content pane what size we want it to be. We could tell the frame what size to be, but on different operating systems or different people's computers based on their settings, the frame might be different size. What we actually want to be a certain size is the content pane within the frame. If we set a certain size for the frame, that would mean that the content pane might be a different size on everyone's computer. So we'll set the content pane to a preferred size of a dimension of frame width and frame height. And then we'll pack it all to make sure it gets its preferred sizes. And then set the frame to be visible, which will basically pop up this interface so the person can see it and start interacting with it. I think this might be all we have to do to get this working. So it's in the right package, it looks like. And so all we should need to do, we can get rid of this entire thing. And in our main function in Java 2048.java, all we have to do is say GUI equals new GUI. And that should create this constructor, do all this work, and bring up the interface for us to see. And if that doesn't work, we'll debug from there. So let me print the working directory. And I'm forgetting my compile commands already. Let me change to source. Oops. I need to go up to source directory and javac in com/adamvjunior/java2048/star.java. Okay, looks like the only thing it doesn't like is frame.setVisible. So let's see what's up with that. It got here and didn't like that. Well, you want to set visible to true. Okay, it looks like I compiled. So let's do java com .adampjr.java2048 .java2048. And here we go. I hope you can see this. We have a black box, a large label with the word 1024, the number 1024, and then a score and a high score. From the looks of it, I overdid it on the top area. We can bring this north section down a little bit. So let's go ahead and do that. Opening the text file here. The height of the thing is 112 pixels. We can probably get away with 80. I have to be careful here because the frame height has to go down by the same amount. So if I had a, let me make this math easy on myself and go 82. So 112 minus 82 is 30. So if I just bring this down by 30 to 394, everything else should be the same. Just shrink it a little bit. So if that's true, I'm going to change to source and compile. It compiled, so I'm going to change to bin and run. And that's a little bit more reasonable. If you can see, this is a perfect square. It will fit 4 64 by 64 PNG files in a row with a little bit of space in between them, and it will do the same thing downwards. So I thought this would take a little bit longer to get this little mock-up done, so that's all for this episode. In the next one, we're going to connect the GUI to the game class and pull its array to populate this black area with the images we made.